Hey friends and allies, this is Michael Thompson. I'm real excited about this Allies initiative that is called Recalibrate, the monthly get-together Zoom call for all of our Zoweh allies, hosted by Greg Saylors, one of my friends and partners and teammates in Zoweh. And in this particular Recalibrate, which we're also offering to our Exploring More podcast friends and allies, we got to talk about this new initiative coming in the new year called the Elder Sage Initiative. It's part of the new book called King Me, and yet it's a significant part. So in this Recalibrate and in this Exploring More podcast, you're going to hear us, my friend Jim Shanae, myself, Wendell Deo, principals kind of in the Elder Sage Initiative, talking about the importance of this generation, 65 and older, the wisdom that they have, the hard-earned wisdom, and the opportunity that they have to impact younger generations, and yet the challenge of is the younger generations even looking to them for something to say, for encouragement, for direction, and do the elder sages feel like they legitimately have a wisdom to share? So we're going to be talking about that in this session. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope this starts to get you interested and considering more and more, what is it to see masculinity and masculine hearts reclaimed, restored with the help of those who have been on that journey, who have experienced the healing and the restoration of Jesus in their lives so that they can help the next generation. I hope you enjoy it.
So welcome everybody. This is Greg Saylors. We're here on Recalibrate, and we have a great conversation tonight for you. We're excited that you're joining us on YouTube or on Facebook or even on the Explore More podcast. We're just so thankful for you. I have Michael Thompson with me, as well as Jim Shanae, Barry Strickland, and our friend Wendell Deo will be with us. And we're talking about elder sages, Michael. And you have a new book that's coming out next year sometime, and I know you're going to talk a little bit about elder sages. This past week, we had the great honor of having our 15th anniversary at Zoweh, and also Michael's first book, 10th anniversary of Search and Rescue, and the love and life that is searching for you, right? I love the taglines of that and Heart of a Warrior, which is before you can become the warrior, you have to become the beloved son. And so we're so thankful that you guys are all with us, and ladies, whoever's watching tonight, and we're just honored that you're here. But Michael, a question came up in my heart when we were together at the Night of Stories. You said something to the effect of, you know, men and ladies, folks that are watching and here with us, one of the fastest ways, if not the fastest ways, to reach the heart of men, to reach our kings, to reach our warriors, and even younger folks, is by reaching and calling up and out our elder sages. What did that mean, buddy? I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah, it's something God put on my heart about a year ago as I've been working on and writing this book and looking at some of the masculine journey. And we'll talk a little bit about, you know, where are our elders and sages? Where are they? How do we look at them in our culture? But when I think about the men who are impacting my life and they are men 10, 20 years older than me, who are engaged in my life, who are caring for me. And in many ways, either that big brother figure or that fatherly figure. Some of us, our dads aren't around. Some of us, our dads have stepped over the line, and we'll see them maybe another day. But this idea, Greg, what God put on my heart was, you know, with youth ministry and the generation of boys right now, it's going to take 40 or 50 years to see how that even turns out. You know, how does that happen? Now, I'm not saying we don't give attention to loving, you know, those in their teens or early 20s. but they got a lot of, I mean, I think by the consensus of this crowd, I think everyone would agree, they got a lot of miles ahead of them, right? I really don't want to hear, not that he couldn't tell me the truth or something, he could even tell me well about marriage, somebody who's been married 2 or 3 years, to teach or do something on marriage or parenting with somebody who's got kids who are 4, 5, and 6, that it's not that they don't know anything, but the men that I really want to hear from are the men that, their swagger and their limp seems to be one and the same. They've got the miles and there's wisdom in those hard-earned miles over time. One of the terms that I talk about in the book, Greg, is men who have holy regrets. And you have to have been in this story for a while to have, some of those men who can speak to what it is to walk intimately with God, what it is to see life and relationships redeemed and restored. So I believe that it's the elder sages that actually could have a more direct impact on the kings that are in the king stage and the young warriors. Those men need somebody they can look to. And I know we use the term often look up to, but I'd say even just look to, who maybe their mileage is, it has them in a different season, but they've played in those seasons. And I think they're if they're oriented men, if they're men who know who they are, where they are, and the good that God's up to, and they're walking and have a friendship with God, those are the men that I think need to invite, kind of bring some training to and deploy into, especially the world of Zoweh, where there are hundreds and hundreds, thousands of men who would love to have an elder sage, in their life. This is not one man speaking to 50. This is more that intimate friendship that an older man can have, and the influence that older man can have on younger men just because he's been in the game.
That's really good, Michael. I love that as the man that I am, being 44, my dad died when I was 22, and I'm so thankful Barry Strickland, who's on the call with us here for the first few minutes, and other men that have really, I think, taken an interest in, me at the time, the younger generation. We were talking with Jim McCauley yesterday, who can't be on with us, but mentors men in the world of young life, and he wants to bring his, elder sage, his wisdom, to those men, Michael. We've got some elder sages. Maybe asking Barry a question, Michael. But I know he's out at Wild at Heart boot camp, so he's got to leave in a minute.
Yeah.
What would it be a question you would interject for those men?
Yeah. I have Barry. I would probably ask, what, and make sure you unmute Barry. But what are some of the things you've learned about this role that you have been seen as, that you have been invited to, and that you have been encouraged to play? What are some of the things that God's shown you in a unique way that your influence, your impact continues as you step into this elder sage stage?
Michael, it's I think what most guys need, or what I needed, was to understand my value, just telling it like it is. And I've had a lot of guys, Greg and, Morgan and Alex up here at Wild at Heart, that have invited me into things. And so it's just the enemy just gets in your head that you don't really have that much to offer. And young guy's not going to pay attention to an old guy. He's going to think that all your advice is old. But God has shown me through being around these younger men that many of them are hungry, and they are looking for father figures, grandfather figures. I'll accept that role. I'm almost 75. I'll accept that role gladly. But I think this is to make this work, to make this effective. It's going to take some younger men that reach out and invite us into it. Just really reinforcing our value, which the enemy doesn't want us to understand. He wants us to just, as Eldridge says up here, just retire to Fort Lauderdale and play golf every day. That's what the enemy wants. So, yeah, that's the main thing, that I understand that I do have something to offer, and my presence is important at things, not necessarily what I'm doing or what I'm saying. Just being there is important, and God has shown me that through the younger guys that I'm fortunate enough to be around on a regular basis.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it makes me think of the idea, and Greg, you can jump back in if you want, but it makes me think, Barry and Jim, Wendell, Mark, of the idea that masculinity is bestowed, and masculinity bestows masculinity. And if some of the trouble masculinity is in is because it hasn't been bestowed, we haven't had the kind of initiations and validations and the kind of men with some kind of authority, because again, they're still in the game, speaking to the kings and warriors who will someday be the elders and sages. 30 years,
Sure.
15 years, 10 years, they're going to be graduating to that stage. And if they're not initiated, if they're not validated, that's how it was supposed to work. And because we have so many uninitiated and unvalidated men, that's why we have such a shortage of good kings and elder sages. So I think, Barry, this idea that who's going to help other men understand their value, who's God going to partner with to do that bestowing? Because if the enemy's using people to wound people, what we believe in this initiative is that God wants to partner with good men to make good men. And the voices and the presence, the listening ears and the few words of an elder sage can make a huge difference, a huge impact on those, like you said, Barry, seeking, looking, hoping, wanting to be seen and invited and valued. I think it's where the gold is.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I would bring up, Barry and Michael and Jim as well, is that there's so much fatherlessness out there, as we know. I mean, Barry and I have been in prison together many times, and it's hyper fatherlessness in the prison, of course, but it's true everywhere. And if your earthly father is even alive, a lot of us were not fathered, or there's lots of places that were not fathered in us. And so I think about that, and as a young man, I think something that I was thinking about this the other day, Michael, when we were actually out at Heart of Warrior West, and God spoke something to me, which was interesting. But I was thinking about, not having dad, and I was humbled because of Barry and so many other men that God, brought into my life when my dad had to go home. And one of the things God whispered to me was, but you looked for them and you sought them out. Well, I tell you, it's not that I'm special, but there's not a lot of 22-year-olds out there that are looking for fathering. And I don't know that I would have been if my dad hadn't have passed away, honestly. But I saw that and really needed it. And then the other thing God whispered, which was really sweet, was, hey, I left you with the best dads, and a lot of you guys are those men, which I really appreciate. Mm-hmm. So Michael, you had some other questions. I know you want to jump into some of those.
Yeah, Jim, I'd love for you to speak a little bit to, I touched on it, but if you'd expand on why maybe there aren't more elder sages, or because we're really not there's elderly men all around, but we're talking about a certain kind, a certain class, a certain quality about them. So maybe you could talk about why there aren't more of them, and then talk a little bit about maybe what our characteristics are for an elder sage.
Yeah, that's a mouthful. Yeah, to Barry's point earlier, that maybe nobody's invited into it. My experience is that younger guys don't think that older guys want to be a mentor or an elder sage to them. And the older guys don't think that the younger guys want somebody to mentor them. So as a result, nobody asks anybody.
Yeah.
And I think if create an initiative that mobilizes, energizes these guys. I mean, we need oriented men at every stage, right? We need warriors, we need kings, we need lovers, we need oriented men at every stage. But why in the world would we dismiss the oldest among us, those with the most experience and the best opportunity to share life experiences if they're oriented? Why would we dismiss them? So this initiative is to create some energy in and around these older guys that can contribute. And to your question, Michael, why aren't there more? Well, one is they're not invited. Two is there aren't very many role models. I mean, if you ask me who my elder sages were, I'm going to be hard pressed to identify them. I have a dearth of role models in that area.
See, that's an elder sage term right there, boys. Dearth. You know, most of us don't even know what a dearth is, but elder sages do.
The world views older people as retirement is kind of the end, right? We stereotype the older people as kind of less valuable and out of touch.
Yeah.
And older people do have lesser vitality, lesser physical strength and health. And say a sage or an older guy might feel that because they've got so many experiences, some of them have been negative, and maybe they feel like they're disqualified.
Oh yeah, the enemy's done a number on them, no doubt.
Yeah,
But, yeah,
the enemy has done a number on them, no doubt, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. I would say, you know, Greg, a great story at Heart of Warrior West. You know, medics were getting kind of pulled into their appointments, and Sean Baker, a man who had Jim as a medic 2 years before, and Jim had listened to, and Jim had you know, done what we do with our medic training. He does the training, so he did it well. And Sean, you know, said that, so this guy's looking for a medic, and Sean says, well, you know, I don't know where they are, but there's that guy. I met with that guy. You want to meet with that guy? And it was Jim Chenet. And then the story we heard about what happened to that guy has become kind of infamous in a short few weeks since West, as to Jim, how you helped him come to peace with some of his regrets, and now see him in a new space. I mean, you know, I think about Wendell Deo and his role on kind of our advisory council. I knew it because God had put it on my heart, but to have Wendell on that council of several other kings and a few other sages like Mark Haskins and like Barry Strickland. So, but right, Doug Miller and some other guys, Ed Fitch. I mean, these guys on the advisory council, they want to talk, they want to be with Wendell, you know, and when, you know, I think the E.F. Hutton slogan is coming back for the Elder Sage Initiative, right? So, you know, when our elder sages speak, you know, people listen. So I would say, Wendell, I'd ask you, Wendell, you know, kind of what's some of your thoughts and reactions to this idea of reclaiming and continuing in the restoration project that we're all on, reclaiming and restoring the older men into this identity of an elder sage. And you know, what I think Proverbs 16, you know, it's the gray hair is the crown of splendor, right? The gray hair is the crown of splendor. So Wendell, what would you say about just this, you know, reclaiming this stage for the advancing of the kingdom in younger men's lives?
Well, first of all, let me say I'm thrilled that we are having this conversation. I was different than Jim in that I was following in the ministry of with Crew for 32 and a half years, and Dr. Bill Bright, if you will, was running the show, and it didn't matter how old he was. He was front lines of the battle until he died. That was the mentality. That was what was modeled, and so Dr. Bright. Most people don't know this, but before he died of pulmonary fibrosis, he had 2 years where he couldn't hardly breathe, and before he was bedfast, he was in a wheelchair with oxygen. He called people in and said, "I need you to work with me closely because I've only got 2 years left, and I've got 80 projects that I want to finish." And a half a dozen of those were books. And so that's the model. You know, what was modeled to me was, yeah, if we're not dead, we're not done. If we have a pulse, we have a purpose. And subsequently, I left Crew because my wife's multiple sclerosis had gotten so badly, and the Lord made it clear in the middle of the night. You know, she couldn't breathe one night, and felt like she's crying. She just wants to die, and she's already been in a wheelchair, and so. You know, I did all I could to comfort her, encourage her, and prayed with her. And she fell back to sleep. And I said, "Lord, I don't know what else to do. I don't know what else you want me to do." And the Lord said, "I don't want you to do. I want you to be. I want you to be more available. I want you to be more understanding. I want you to be more compassionate, more sensitive. You know, just a variety of those things." And I said, "Okay, God, by your grace, through your Spirit, that's who I want to be." And I rolled back over. She'd already fallen asleep. And I felt like the Lord touched me on the shoulder and said, "You can't lead athletes in action anymore, not while she's alive." And that began a different journey for me. I left, you know, I became for a period, Wendell wannabe. You know, that period was short. And then all of a sudden I began to introduce myself as Wendell used to be. And because my friends would say, "Hey, I want to introduce you to Wendell." And I'd stick out my hand and say, "Hey, I'm Wendell used to be." And they'd say, "What?" And I'd say, "Yeah, you're getting ready to say Wendell used to be chaplain of the Reds and Bengals. Wendell used to be president of Athletes in Action. Wendell used to be associate U.S. director of Crew." And they'd say, "Well, what do you do now?" I said, "Well, I'm a camp director." But that didn't make any sense to anybody. Well, I began to experience, take away the title, take away that. I have more to offer. Lord, how do you want to redeploy me? I had a guy come in to work with us on our project when we were equipping college kids for a lifetime of ministry. And halfway through the project, he said, "I want you to know why I came. I want to see what it looks like to finish strong." That was like 15 years ago. And I said, "Whoa, wait, what do you mean? I'm not planning on finishing." And so for me, it's been finding the opportunities to still do what God's called me to do. And Michael, when you talked and you gave me a chance to look in from the outside and see what was going on, I quickly bought into it because I was seeing life change. I was seeing lives impacted. And frankly, I'm looking at this and seeing there's so many people like me who are older who still want to go out and rip the gates off of hell. You know, we're told the gates of hell won't prevail against us. We need to play offense, and we've just been settling playing defense. And so I'm excited because it gives us an opportunity. And you've looked at it and seen a need. And that's what I think many people out there want. If they've been on the front lines of battle, they know what living a life of significance is. And it's different than simply success. So that's what I'm excited about.
That's good. Yeah, I want to just call on Mark Haskins for a minute. He's been in this space of encore. What a great word, Mark. Can you unmute, Mark, and just share just what God's put on your heart in terms of these encore? I know Gary Barkalow talks about the fourth quarter. We're talking about the Elder Sage Initiative, but Mark, I'd love for you to just share, if you're still on with us, just a little about how Encore has kind of found the Elder Sage Initiative and the Elder Sage Initiative found you? I don't hear him, Greg.
Yeah, I can't get him unmuted. I can only ask him to unmute.
Okay, Mark, can you unmute?
I think he's got the wrong mark.
I don't see him anywhere. I don't
Oh,
think
he was on earlier. Okay.
I think Haskins left, buddy.
Okay,
It's a great,
Val?
hey, it's a great question though.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think about in the, Greg, in the blog, I wrote this paragraph, and this is from the book King Me. The great question to ask any elder sage is, what do you think? And to know if you have one, the best of them will pause, look down, and then look you in the eye and return your question with, that's a good question. What do you think? If you make the mistake of talking, you may never know. But if you press in just a little, no, I really like to know what you think. They'll probably smile, take a deep breath, and then tell you the story that you've always longed to hear, the story of walking with God and learning the lessons that they are now attempting to give you as an elder sage. So, I think that the challenges are going to be many, but the opportunities are going to be far more. I believe, Greg, that, getting some of these guys who want to step into this role, we have men who want to meet with men, especially older men. And so to get a special forces, right, a group of men, we put it this way in the vision, a special force of elder sages fathering hearts to the Father. Right? That is so loaded right there, Greg. Fathering hearts to the Father. It means they know the path. It means they know a way. It means they know something. And so we want to make sure that the crew who become part of this initiative, that they have experienced healing. They're experiencing intimacy. They're experiencing kind of in their masculine story what holes there are that the Father, Son, and Spirit will fill them. And so they'll have that's what they'll have to offer. Validating and initiating younger men in order to see the downward spiral of masculinity reversed and future generations positively impacted for the kingdom of God. So there's some more specific I think things that, strategy wise, what an elder sage can do. They're great listeners. Jim, what he formed in the medic training is going to be a part of this initiative. At one point, Jim and Wendell and I were talking. It was the idea that what if we had masculine journey experts? What if we had masculine journey experts, men who knew what each stage should look like, can listen for woundedness, could listen for agreements, could listen for vows, and when it's their turn and when it's time, could ask permission of a younger man. Can I ask you a couple questions? Maybe we could look and go in that direction. I think that's kind of some of what this is about. I'd love to see more elder sages as medics at our events, more elder sages facilitating more of the King Me Advance groups. I think it's a strategic idea that God is giving us to, like Wendell said, redeploy their skills, gifts, and I like how Jim put it in the big statement that we've been working on. They know how to offer their glory to younger men so that they can find their glory, because that's what's violently opposed is every man's glory, who he is, like Barry said at the beginning, their identity, their value in the kingdom. What if there were more Gandalfs and Yodas and Miyagis, right, to help the younger masculine hearts find their way. So
Yeah.
that's what we're up to. Top secret stuff.
Well, hey, I hope you enjoyed that conversation. some of the Q&A from some of the allies on the Recalibrate, and the opportunity on Exploring More podcast to just begin to explore this with us, to taste a little bit about what God's put on us, to begin to organize in terms of relationships and environments that we believe are going to help men move forward in this quest for wholeheartedness, the healing, the training, the restoration of God in a man's life. If you want more information, you can go to zoweh.org/allies. And as well as if you want some more information on the podcast, you can go to zoweh.org/exploring more. Hey, thanks for being with us. Look forward to next time.